All right, hello everybody. I'm Chris Mitchell coming from COMJOUR 355. We're going to do a little bit of draft coverage today with day 2 going on right now. Jaguars are on the clock for what seems like the 10th time already at number 45 overall. And it was a very interesting first round of the draft yesterday. A lot of what was expected and then a lot of pretty unexpected things. With mostly the thing that jumped off to me was Alex Leatherwood going at number 17. There were so many other tackles that were projected to go before him, specifically Tevin Jenkins and Christian Darrisaw, who ended up going at 23 to the Vikings. But other than that, that's just Raiders drafting. Mike Mayock goes after people he thinks he could work in. And especially for someone who is slated to come in as a guard more than a tackle, especially if you were listening to draft coverage last night. But another thing to notice is that the college teammates reuniting, which I think is really cool and interesting. The only pair coming from last year that are now reunited are at the top of the draft, starting with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, the combo out of Clemson, that are going to be playing together now again in Jacksonville. And we see that again with some more old Alabama connections with Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle pairing up in Miami, and Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner for last year, pairing up with Jalen Hurts. And now the other big question mark coming from this draft were coming from picks 8 and 9, where we definitely were expecting a quarterback to come off the board, but we saw corners. And that was something we'll talk about a little bit later on. Moving on to my team, as you can see on me and I'm sure behind me, the Baltimore Ravens, who I was very happy with where they drafted. At number 27, they took wide receiver out of Minnesota, Rashad Bateman, who despite their measurables coming in a little bit but lower than last time, coming in at 6 foot 190 compared to the 6'2", 210 that was floating around for a lot of the pre-draft process. And that's what we need. Lamar Jackson needs an outside X receiver that could run the short to intermediate routes, let Mark Andrews roam up the seam and not have to run that short to intermediate route tree. And now we move to their second pick, the pick that was earned from the Orlando Brown Jr. trade. Odafe Away was going by his middle name, Jason Away, for a while. We got outside linebacker out of Penn State, absolute freak when it comes to intangibles. 6'5", 257, sub 4.4 40. Someone definitely the Ravens will be able to take advantage of. However, the one concern coming in on Away, coming out of Penn State, was that last year he had 0 sacks. First time in a very long time that an edge defender was picked in the first round without a sack. But that doesn't really worry me that much, more just confuses me a little based on the Ravens' past history, really favoring college production with people like Terrell Suggs and even Jalen Ferguson. And the Ravens have a long way to wait today. We're on pick 46 right now on day 2. They don't have a pick in the whole second round, and then it's not until the end quarter of the first round, or end quarter of the third round, where we'll see 94 and pick 104 for the Ravens. And we're going to move on to our first guest today, someone who was very happy with yesterday's draft results, as you'll see in just a minute. We have Jimmy Hopkins, the Bears fan, coming in live from Pullman. Jimmy, how did you feel when you saw the Bears had traded up for a franchise quarterback? Let me reiterate, since I didn't say that. Justin Fields falls to number 11, where the Bears are able to trade up and get him and prevent all NFL fans from having to deal with Justin Fields being with Bill Belichick and the Patriots. So we'll go back to Jimmy, and let's hear what you're thinking.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked that Fields fell that far, and the Bears were talking about trading up early, and I wasn't so sure it was going to happen because, the Bears never really make the right move, especially with quarterbacks. I think they've had 51 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era, so that's the most by any team. When I saw the trade, I was pretty surprised. Wasn't too surprised, but I was more worried about if they'd make the right pick. I saw Mac Jones still on the board, so I was a little nervous they might do that after the whole Trubisky incident. But I'm glad they, were smart and picked the right player.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I thought Fields was honestly clear consensus quarterback 2, even in front of Wilson out of BYU. But we have some highlights going now for Justin Fields coming out this great season. And I really think that he could succeed in this offense really well. We saw the success of Trubisky was able to have with Sprinkle and quarterback run. But he doesn't really compare to Fields on that level. Or really, I don't know if he even had close to the accuracy that Fields has also. So definitely very exciting going into next year. We were scheduled to have another guest joining us that coincides with the draft themes that we were just talking about, and that was a Broncos fan who were really expecting to go quarterback with the Drew Lock debacle that we've been dealing with the last couple of years for NFL fans. But they brought in Teddy Bridgewater from Carolina, and I guess they're going to let that be the quarterback battle. We'll go back to the whole first round to get more of a look at that. See all the corners that came off in the first round, as we're starting to see that more of a run on defensive backs in the second round. And we'll bring Jimmy back in to touch back on the second round, because the Bears made another trade up. They lost another pick, but they come up and get another more premier player. Does the trading back make you a little nervous at all about losing total picks, or you're just happy going in on best players available?
I'm happy with it. I mean, personally, I think it's quality over quantity. If you have those early picks, usually they have less of a chance to be a bust, and you just never really know what you're getting in the later rounds. And the first rounds are more suitable for the NFL usually. So I was surprised by the move up, but I was waiting to see the 52nd pick. But I'm happy they moved up and got a good O-line, because they have 3 solid O-linemen, but I feel like they just need some blockers to keep the new quarterback healthy.
Are there any? So is that where you want them to go next? Are you thinking more offensive line help? Is there another position that you're looking at it as the rounds move on?
Not really looking for another position. I mean, they have 3 solid linemen already. Brought in another one, so they have. I think 2 of them are Pro Bowlers. So I'm happy with the line right now. Maybe another wide receiver if they could. They have 2 solid receivers right now. The third slot's not looking too hot, but we'll see how the draft unfolds.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate your insight on what the Bears are doing.
Thank you.
So taking back at a look at the first round, you're going to keep the focus back on today in day 2. I really think the Ravens are going to target an offensive lineman, whether that is a tackle, if they're available down at pick 94. But I also think guard or interior offensive linemen in general could be something that they target, whether it be Quinn Maynards out of Wisconsin Whitewater or Dante Brown out of Alabama. Someone that could solidify that left guard spot or center spot, depending on what they do with Bradley Bozeman. I think that's probably where the Ravens should go. Also, safety or another receiver. Someone I really loved throughout this whole pre-draft process out of Western Michigan is wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge. Completely blew me away at the Senior Bowl. I know that's not the same as going out and playing a season in the SEC, but he consistently wins the one-on-ones. Super twitchy ability when he has the ball in his hands. And just had that kind of dog mentality, like when you saw Antonio Brown coming out of Central Michigan, just smaller school guy, wins at the top of the routes, can run after the catch. That's who I really want the Ravens to go after in this day 2 of the NFL draft. Hopefully they'll be able to move up and not have to lose that much draft capital, because they usually do a pretty good job of managing compensatory picks and making the most out of each draft. But couldn't be happier with Rashad Bateman, as we could just take a look at some more of these highlights. It's exactly what the Ravens need. Outside receiver that could take the pressure off Andrews, but also Hollywood Brown. He could go back to more of a field stretcher, running 9 routes and taking slants upfield, things across that line. And I am Chris Mitchell. Again, some draft coverage for COMJOUR 355. Hope you found this a little bit insightful, learned a little bit from it. I definitely had fun putting it together. We're going to keep watching for the draft. The Chargers pick is in right now. Just came through, 47th overall. Cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. And so that will take us onto the 49ers being on the clock for pick number 48 overall. Enjoy the rest of the draft.